Hello there, very good evening. This is the weekend edition of Primetime News on TV1. On behalf of the Newsfirst, the voice of the people, I'm Martin Satyanesan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for this evening.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Chief Prelate seeks support for the President to uplift the country. No irregularities in Indian fertilizer deal. Company promises cash prize for proving them wrong. National Plant Quarantine Service rejected third-party testing of fertilizer stocks. A statement by Chindao Seawind Biotech Group. The government's wrong decisions have left farmers helpless. A statement by the opposition leader. How will funds be spent through the 2022 budget?
රාජපක්ෂවරු කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ 1යි 2යි 3යි 4ක් නියෝජනය කරනවා රාජ්‍ය අමාත්‍යවරයෙක් ඉන්නවා මිලියන 3470ක් වැය කරන්නේ එක කණ්ඩායමක් අතර.
Reason behind the explosion at the restaurant in Colombo revealed.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available.
Sambole.lk.
On to your top story this evening. An almsgiving was held at the Ruan Valley Saya seeking blessings on the President, Prime Minister and the people. This was in line with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's 2-year completion in office this month.
The President and Prime Minister engaged in religious observances and participated in the Chivara Kapruka Puja at the Ruan Valley Mahasaya. The President obtained blessings from the Mahasangha, and the Sangha also invoked blessings on the government, including the Prime Minister and the entire country.
In the last 50 years, the leaders of our country obtained loans from foreign countries. They fed the country using loans from foreign nations. Everyone must bear the responsibility for placing Sri Lanka in these difficult times.
We can
feel that there needs to be a change in attitude among the people. If that doesn't happen at any cost, we won't be able to develop the country to the levels that we expect. Therefore, instead of depending on the President for everything, everyone, including the government, ministers and Venerable Theras, must support this in every way possible.
We must understand that efforts must be made when times are hard. We must help in making the country prosperous by supporting the President, the Prime Minister and the Cabinet who want to make the country prosperous.
ඉදිරියට කටයුතු කරන්න ඕනෑ කියන හැඟීම හැම දෙනාගේම සිත් තුළ ඇති කර ගන්න ඕන.
100 low-income families in the Anuradhapura district were provided with access to clean drinking water through a project by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. The project was funded by personal donations from the Prime Minister. It was launched at the Mirisavatiya Rajamaha Viharaya in line of the Prime Minister's birthday.
To be honest, I am disappointed with the government. They don't discuss their activities at least as much as I do. They have constructed 1,500 wabbers. Minister Chamal Rajapaksa told me about this. 14,040 homes have been built and plans are in place to build 14,040 more. They have been in power for the past 2 years. How many roads have they constructed? Honorable Prime Minister, request a progress report from the MPs, ministers and state ministries. Let's implement a program to inform the public about the government's activities. When you don't inform the public of what you have done for the country, it is obvious that the people will criticize you.
Jatika Jana Balawege leader Anura Kumara Dissanayake made a revelation in Parliament on fraud and corruption and also on the country's economic situation. He made these remarks during the debate on the second reading of the 2022 budget.
තාත්තා තෙල් පෝලිමේ, අම්මා ගෑස් පෝලිමේ, දුව කිරිපිටි පෝලිමේ.
While the father is standing in the queue for fuel, the mother is standing in the queue for gas. The daughter is in the queue for milk powder, and the son is standing in the queue for passports. That is how the economy has affected families. Foreign currency reserves have hit their worst levels in history. On the 31st of October, there were $2.2 billion in foreign currency reserves. I saw the finance minister said he expects $11.9 billion in export revenue this year, but we can't prevent our import bill from reaching almost $20 billion US. On the 27th of January, we will have to spend $500 million on international sovereign bond payments. Many economists say that this would create a dangerous situation. But in June next year, we will have to settle an ISB of $1 billion US. Generally, we will have to pay $300 million in loan installments every month. We feel that this budget is empty and has no purpose. The finance minister had tabled certain important points. We thank him for that. He had said that supplementary estimates won't be tabled in Parliament in addition to the expenditure heads allocated through Parliament. I wish to say that although supplementary estimates won't be tabled, there is a proposal to increase the debt limit. I think for the first time there will be a proposal to transfer 8.5 billion amassed unlawfully to the Treasury. That is good, but he has forgotten the Pandora Papers. I don't know whether that is because it is his relative. This is about Nirupama Rajapaksa. There are assets worth 35 billion in that. What is your stance on those assets? At the same time, you know that a large scam was exposed in London. It involved the purchase of Airbuses in 2014. The chief executive officer of Sri Lankan Airlines, Kapila Chandrasekara's wife's account had received $2 million US. All these details have emerged, but you haven't tabled proposals regarding that. Allegations have been leveled against you as well. There is a mansion in Malwana. There is a massive land as well. Mudita Jayakodi says it doesn't belong to you. Thirunadesan also says it doesn't belong to him. Therefore, there is a massive asset without an owner, which can be acquired. If there is a genuine intention to recover these assets which have been acquired through dirty politics, I feel that your proposals can extend further.
Anukumara Disanayaka also commented on incidents of fraud and corruption that figured in Parliament recently.
Do
you think that people with a mindset of pillaging people who attempted to engage in corruption while purchasing antigen test kits and conducting the quarantine procedure while people are fearing for their lives helped develop this country? Fertilizer was imported from China. But my question is, who issued letters of credit before samples were tested? How can they do that? Mahindanand Alutgambage spoke extensively on fertilizer in recent days. This week he said that it is Sashendra who handles fertilizer matters. I don't understand the meaning of that. Nano nitrogen was imported to the country. 500 milliliters of fertilizer cost 654 rupees in India, but it has been imported to Sri Lanka at 2,550 rupees. This is 4 times the market price. Any letter of credit is always opened in the name of the supplier. But the money was deposited to corrupt racketeer Mohanty Pereira's bank account at the People's Bank Town Hall branch. The money was then transferred on Monday afternoon before the cabinet met in the evening.
The Jatika Jana Balavege leader also commented on the fate of election promises and national assets.
You always expect the people, like magicians, to develop the country and have hopes that people like Prince Diyasen would uplift the country. Who didn't come to power? There are 5 Rajapaksas in cabinet. There is a state minister as well. 3.4 billion is being circulated within a certain group. This accounts for 64% of the budget. The farmers are out on the streets for a reason. The farmers have taken to the streets demanding the required fertilizer, saying that they are ready to cultivate and provide rice to the nation. What is the purpose of a budget that doesn't focus on these problems?
දැන් ලැජ්ජ නැතුව අහනවා ඇවිල්ලා දැන් පොල් ගෙඩිය පෙන්නලා අහනවා දැන් පොල් කීයද දැන් සැපද ලුණු කෑවද අලෙහෙම තියෙනවද කියලා අහනවා හැබැයි මතක තියාගන්න
Remember that Mahinda Rajapaksa had a right to ask those questions. He ended the 30-year-long war in the country and brought peace to the country. On the one hand, he built ports and airports, and on the other hand he built highways, and he filled the paddy mills in the country with so much of rice that you were able to convert the Matala airport into a rice storage facility. He made the country self-sufficient in vegetables and fruits. He increased Sri Lanka's foreign reserves to $8,200 million and increased the per capita income to 3,821 rupees. After the country was made self-sufficient, Mahinda Rajapaksa, our father, who saw a war coming again and the economy being destroyed, had the right to ask these questions. You destroyed the country and gave it to us, and now you are asking for it again. While ministers and MPs are debating the state of Sri Lanka's economy, people in several areas are spending their time in queues. People were seen in queues near the 10th mile post in Madurankuli, Puttalam today.
ගෑස් ගැන කතා කරලා වැඩක් නෑ අපි සල්ලි දීලා හිඟා කන වැඩක් මේක නේද මේ ආණ්ඩුවෙන් ඇති වැඩක්ම නෑ කියන්න දෙයක් නෑ කියනවා කුණු හරප වලින් තමයි කියන්නේ ඉක්මනින් මේකට එමුක් ආණ්ඩුව මැදිහත් වෙලා දෙන්න ඕනේ.
How long will Sri Lanka have to face a shortage of essential commodities including gas, milk powder, rice, sugar and cement? What solutions will the government provide? Journalists raised questions regarding the matter from the Minister of Trade. If the ship carrying the commodities do not arrive, we will have no way of bringing the goods into the country. The container shipping rates have increased by 1,042%. The shipments are stuck in those countries. The movement of ships have reduced as well. If ships don't arrive, then the country will face a shortage of imported goods.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says most of the issues the country is facing right now were created by the government.
It
has been 2 years since this administration came into power. Take a look back. Most of the issues faced by the people were created by the government. Did Sri Lanka face a fertilizer crisis until the presidential election? Were there issues surrounding agrochemical, weedicides or pesticides? Were there issues related to the stable prices of goods? To evade the promises that they made to the farmers, they created this false story that organic fertilizer will be made mandatory. Farmers are helpless today because of the wrong decisions of this government, because of the government's decisions that are not based on science but based on superstition. The people have been burdened with so much of issues. The ministers have made decisions detrimental to the farmers after coming into power using their votes. They have created poverty among farmers. Farmers who lived their lives with pride have now been made beggars. The farmers have to think of how to supply rice to their homes instead of supplying rice to the country. The alternative proposed by the Samagi Jana Balavega is a new technological agricultural revolution centered around the farmers. We will get the support of millions of farmers and their families for this technological revolution.
මේ රටේ දසලක්ෂ සංඛ්‍යාත ගොවි පවුල් සහ ගොවි ජනතාව අපි සම්බන්ධ කරගන්න.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa expressed these views at the Nagarayan Nagarayata Gamin Gamata Dorin Dorata program held in Pemaduwa, Anuradhapura West.
United Farmers Trust Limited says there are limited chances of reducing the cost of Indian nano-nitrogen fertilizer through diplomatic talks. The chairman of the company challenged that he would offer 100 million for anyone who imports nano-nitrogen at less than 640 rupees.
Yesterday I saw that Minister Champika Ranawaka had said that this cost 640 Sri Lankan rupees in India and that it was sold at 2,500 rupees here. I wish to make a challenge here. If anyone can import 1 million bottles of fertilizer at 640 rupees, as mentioned on the website, while securing the import permit for that, I will provide a gift of 100 million rupees. The minister is under a lot of stress. I have never seen any minister under stress like Mahinda Nandalut Gamage. We can't take his statements seriously, because if I am under pressure for importing a few bottles of fertilizer, the pressure faced by Mahinda Nandalut Gamage will be 700 times higher. He might make certain remarks under pressure. We must sympathize with some remarks that he makes. I would quit as a minister if I have to face unnecessary pressure like that. We wouldn't mind that. This can't be resolved diplomatically. If that happens, we know how we can cancel this deal. That can be done legally. This is a transaction involving the trade sections of the Indian High Commission. If India promotes nano-nitrogen fertilizer here, they will be able to construct 2 more factories there that will allow fertilizer to be sold at $50 similar to urea. That will result in billions of profits to India. That is why India took that step.
ඉන්දියාවට බිලියන ගානක ලාභයක් ලැබෙන දෙයක්. ඉන්දියාවේ ස්ටෙප් එක ගත්තා අපිට.
In a statement, United Farmers Trust Limited said it is providing nano-nitrogen to Sri Lanka at a lower rate than other countries. News First raised questions on this matter.
If this company sells nano-nitrogen fertilizer to other countries, will your company publish the rates? Just for clarification, because it was your company which said that, you know,
actually we are not going to publish because we have a price.
But then how will you justify that statement in the press invitation saying that you know, we are selling it at a lower rate to Sri Lanka?
Because purely what I heard and what I know.
According to my agreement, that can't be done by anyone, even if it's the minister. But the minister can make a request from me. I have reduced the cost after he requested me to. You saw what happened to the banks after trying to do something like Robinhood, Tarzan and Saradiyal. We can also blacklist the People's Bank. I received a large offer to avoid importing these stocks so that Sir can fail. They are harping on $1 or two, although I have saved 30 billion for this country. If we import urea, we will have to spend 30 billion more. What more do they want after giving it at a low rate? We are a private company. Farmers must be compensated, but that's the government's responsibility. We had explained our side. The government tested that. We have declared the content of our product. This is based on research that has been done. That is the government's decision. If it doesn't work, we will avoid importing it. But I am 1000% sure that this will work. Chinese fertilizer company Qingdao Siwen Biotech says the National Plant Quarantine Service has rejected a request to retest its organic fertilizer samples at a third-party entity. It said the request to retest the samples at Swiss-based laboratory SGS was rejected by the National Plant Quarantine Service without any reason. The company noted that German company Shutter Group and the Sri Lanka Standards Institute had found that its organic fertilizer stock doesn't contain coliform bacteria. The statement added that as coliform bacteria includes Erwinia, the products are free from the harmful bacteria.
A group of farmers received nano-nitrogen fertilizer, another group purchased urea fertilizer at exorbitant prices, others got locally produced substandard organic fertilizer. Farmers who have been caught in the middle of all of this have been left helpless. It has been 12 days since water was released for cultivations in the Dolaha paddy fields of the Giritale settlement. However, farmers are finding it extremely difficult to begin their cultivations for the Maha season. About 15 areas have already been sowed, but they have still not received any fertilizer. Another group of farmers began sowing their fields today. Other farmers have abandoned their paddy fields.
We cultivate because if we don't, the water would be wasted. We did not receive fertilizer the government promised us. We started sowing on our own paddy fields today. Our work here will be done in December. We can't expect an income from this. We are cultivating because we are desperate.
A majority of pumpkins in the market are cultivated in Vilachia, Anuradhapura. Pumpkin cultivation has been severely affected owing to the fertilizer shortage.
They don't understand how to rule the country. Leave your ministries and go home. Give the administration to someone who can govern. We are working tirelessly. Can't those in the parliament understand that? They need to understand that people in the country are living in despair. If you can, kill us. We are speaking in pain. You waste your time. You travel in air-conditioned vehicles. You are useless ministers who live off the tax money charged from innocent people. Let go of this. We don't care about your ministries.
Will the government change its policy on organic fertilizer? I believe that the President will approve the use of chemical fertilizer on vegetable cultivation soon. We hope to create an atmosphere for farmers to cultivate without any hindrances.
Meanwhile, the All Ceylon Farmers Federation says the Sri Lankan government is withdrawing its arbitrary laws because of protests from farmers. They say this is similar to how Indian farmers have defeated the laws set by large-scale companies such as Adani to decide the price of agricultural produce. It has reached a point where the Indian government has been forced to withdraw this. It is a result of the struggle by Indian farmers. In line with that, we wish to tell the government that a discourse has arisen on some of their foolish and stubborn decisions. That is good, but don't try to convert this into your advantage and portray this as a relief granted to the people. The government has to take a step back on some of their decisions because of the struggles of farmers.
Sri Lanka's budget deficit has increased by nearly 15% in the first 8 months of this year compared to the same period last year.
The Finance Ministry report showed that Sri Lanka's budget deficit during the first 8 months of this year stood at 1.1 trillion rupees. This is an increase compared to 974.8 billion rupees recorded in the same period last year. Government expenditure by August this year also increased to 2.6 trillion rupees from 1.88 trillion rupees a year earlier. The report shows that the government had generated 942.5 billion rupees in revenue during the first 8 months of this year. This was up from 906.4 billion rupees recorded during the same period last year. Tax revenue had also gone up by 6.5%, but non-tax revenue declined 15% to 89.4 billion rupees from 105 billion rupees a year ago. Government investments increased 18.6% to 270 billion rupees from 228 billion rupees a year ago.
We'll continue with more local news after this short commercial break. Stay tuned.
Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available.
Sambole.lk. Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Welcome back to the news. An explosion occurred at the restaurant of a global fast food chain at the Colombo Racecourse building this morning. Police suspect that a gas leak had caused the explosion.
An explosion occurred at the restaurant of a global fast food chain on the ground floor of the Colombo Racecourse building along Reed Avenue. The fire broke out at about 5:30 this morning. Six fire trucks of the Colombo Municipal Council were deployed to douse the fire. The final match of the Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa Trophy was played at the racecourse grounds in Colombo last night. A large number of spectators turned up at the game. Debris from the explosion scattered about 200 meters away from the restaurant. The explosion caused massive damages to the restaurant. The bomb disposal squad and the senior DIG of the Western Province, Deshabandhu Tennakone, visited the location today. Police spokesperson SSP Nihal Talduwa said 2 people sustained minor injuries. They were waiting for a taxi at a car park near the scene of the explosion. The government analysts department said it didn't identify evidence to suggest that the incident had occurred due to an explosive device. Investigations have revealed that the explosion was caused after a gas cylinder used for cooking had leaked and combined with an electric spark. Meanwhile, 3 people were injured after an explosion occurred at a tourist lodge in Kapparatota Veligama on the 4th of last month. Police said a gas leak was the cause of the explosion.
In some tragic news, 4 Sri Lankans from Trincomalee have lost their lives in a fire that broke out at a house in London.
A fire had broken out at a house along Hamilton at around 8:30 p.m. London time on Thursday. The London Fire Brigade said around 40 firefighters and 6 fire engines were called to the scene. The 4 people had lost their lives in the tragedy that occurred at their home. Niruba, the mother, her 1-year-old daughter Shazna, 4-year-old son Tabish and her own mother lost their lives in the fire. Foreign media reported that the family had faced this tragedy as they were preparing to return home. Nirupa's husband had not been at home at the time of the incident. The Metropolitan Police had conducted investigations at the location of the incident. The cause of the fire is yet to be determined, but the Metropolitan Police has said that the fire was not intentional. Nirupa's family had been living in the UK for more than 15 years. They had bought this house only 3 months ago. Black flags were hung at their home in Trincomalee as their relatives mourned their death. They were about to return to the country. They were expected to board the flight on the 19th and land on the 20th. The fire had erupted at the house as they were packing goods. Everything had been burnt. My daughter and grandchildren lost their lives.
India's Central Bureau of Investigation has uncovered a child pornography racket involving at least 30 Sri Lankans.
India's Central Bureau of Investigation has uncovered a racket involving the sharing of child pornographic content. Investigations have shown that several accused were being paid for sharing the videos and images. The content could be viewed by making a payment. India's investigation unit has found that more than 5,000 people from about 100 countries had shared this content. This includes 30 from Sri Lanka. The racket was uncovered during investigations into 83 people allegedly linked to sharing child abuse and pornographic material on social media. India's Central Bureau of Investigation is exploring the possibility of taking up the matter with social media websites and hosting platforms. This would be to examine their role and liability. The investigation body also plans to approach the International Child Sexual Exploitation Database. They aim to trace the origin of the child sexual abuse images seized during the operations.
Search for Common Ground Sri Lanka's work on digital peace building received a Common Ground Award on Thursday, the 18th.
The Common Ground Awards are presented annually to honour outstanding accomplishments in conflict resolution, negotiation, community building and peace building. The award under the media category was presented in New York to recognise the work Search Sri Lanka has done to counter hate speech, misinformation with youth from all parts of the country. Dimesh Ravanage accepted the Common Ground Award representing Search Sri Lanka's digital peace-building initiatives and all the youth working to counter hate speech and misinformation online in Sri Lanka. Former winners of Search Awards include former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga, who was recognized for her work as a chairperson of the Office for National Unity and Reconciliation, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Mohammed Ali, and the South African 1995 Springbok rugby team.
The reopening of the Noel and Nora Bartholomew's Foundation that houses the Office of the College of Surgeons was held today.
Dr. Kiel Fernando, Dr. Narendra Pinto and Professor Ranil Fernando attended the ceremonial reopening of the Noel and Nora Bartholomew's Foundation as special guests. The event was also attended by the President of the College of Surgeons, Professor Srinath Chandrasekhara, and the Secretary of the College of Surgeons, Dr. Ranga Vikramarachi. Plant saplings were planted ceremoniously by junior surgeons, symbolizing the growth of the College of Surgeons as well as its members. The refurbishment and reopening of the Office of the College of Surgeons of Sri Lanka was done in line with the college celebrating 50 years of service.
Shakti FM, which set a new trend in Sri Lanka's radio industry, celebrated its 23rd anniversary today.
Launched in 1998, Shakti FM won the hearts of many listeners in a short period. The anniversary was celebrated at the MTV MBC studio complex in Depanama. Members of the Capital Maharaja Group's senior management and employees of Shakti FM were present. Religious observances were held in line with the anniversary.
Our late chairman, Mr. Rajamahendran's vision for the brand was to play a leadership role in shaping society and contributing to the community. We will continue to do that under the guidance of our chairman and managing director, Mr. Sashi Rajamahendran, to deliver on our brand promise as the leading Tamil language radio channel and the voice of all Tamil-speaking people in Sri Lanka.
While catering to the demands of the future generations, the radio must deliver useful content that would encourage people to think based on science by dismissing foolish beliefs. We must be determined to do that. 23 years ago, Shakti was born under the leadership of the chairman of the Capital Maharaja Group, Mr. Rajamahendran. Everything is taking place based on his vision. God must guide us in fulfilling everything that he wanted.
அவரது எண்ணத்தை அடைவதற்கான ஒரு கருவியாக எங்களை வழிநடத்த வேண்டும்.
Shifting your attention to international news, the jury in the United States has found Kyle Rittenhouse not guilty of all charges related to the shooting of protesters at a demonstration in Kenosha, Wisconsin last year.
Rittenhouse, now 18, had faced a potential life sentence for fatally shooting 2 demonstrators and wounding a third during mass protests on the 25th of August 2020. A 12-member jury found Rittenhouse not guilty on 2 counts of homicide, 1 count of attempted homicide, and 2 counts of recklessly endangering safety. Rittenhouse broke down sobbing after the verdict, which came shortly after the judge warned the courtroom to remain silent or be removed. Rittenhouse's lawyer during the trial argued that he had a right to carry a semi-automatic rifle he brought to the demonstration and had acted in self-defense after being attacked, while prosecutors accused the teenager of provoking the deadly violence. US President Joe Biden has said that he is angry after the teenager was cleared by court. The president expressed dismay at the verdict in a written statement, although earlier he said he stood by the jury. The verdict sparked protests in some cities. Despite the calls for calm, a riot was declared by the police in the city of Portland, Oregon, as some 200 people broke windows and threw objects. There were also protests in Chicago and New York, but they were relatively low-key compared to the widespread civil unrest that the US has seen previously.
China's foreign ministry yesterday stuck to its line that it wasn't aware of the controversies surrounding the tennis professional Peng Shuai, who disappeared after accusing a former top official of sexually assaulting her. The ministry spokesperson told foreign media that the matter was not a diplomatic question and he was not aware of the situation.
The 35-year-old former top-ranked player in women's doubles won titles at Wimbledon in 2013 and the French Open in 2014. She also participated in 3 Olympics, making her disappearance all the more prominent, with Beijing set to host the Winter Games starting on the 4th of February. China's foreign ministry has consistently disavowed knowledge of the issue since Peng Shuai made her accusation more than 2 weeks ago. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki yesterday said Chinese authorities should provide independent and verifiable proof of her whereabouts and that she is safe. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman tweeted, quote, "We are deeply concerned by reports that tennis player Peng Shuai appears to be missing, and we join the calls for the PRC to provide independent, verifiable proof of her whereabouts. Women everywhere deserve to have reports of sexual assault taken seriously and investigated," unquote. Spokesperson for the UN Human Rights Office in Geneva, Liz Throssell, on Friday said it was calling for an investigation with full transparency into her allegation of sexual assault.